Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm Jake, and with me as always, Steven, the Stream King, the Far Cry Guy, and the King of Thieves. Hey Steven.
Straightforward. Most straightforward we've ever had. Hey, how's it going, Jake?
Of intros?
Most straightforward of intros of me we've ever had.
Oh, because I normally derail it right
usually
there.
Are like, you normally derail it. It's normally like the Stream King, the Far Cry Guy, the insert topical thing about podcast that's happening right now thing. Hey,
the man who's gonna be playing the new old Jedi game, Steven. That better?
See, I blame myself. I blame myself for this one. I opened up the door. We had, like, the door was open to get out of the haunted house, and I walked up to it, and I was like, "Hey, killer, the door's open. You're gonna want to close that." And then he came.
I can leave if I wanted to. What are you doing back there?
I could leave if I want to, but I'm not going to.
We're also going to talk about how
here.
This is actually a relevant topic because we're also going to talk about how Steven may be a psychotic monster, because this is Chortlecast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about TV shows,
Steven.
movies, animes, video game, and Steven's psychotic state.
Is Steven a psychopath?
And
that question.
That's the question we look to answer today on this podcast.
Yeah.
We talk about whatever the heck we want to. We've got a great show for you lined up. We're going to talk about a little bit of news from last week, mostly the Nintendo Direct. In fact, only the Nintendo Direct.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because what other news do you want to know about? You know what I mean? Like, that was just the best patch of news. I love when Nintendo Directs happen because that's all I want to talk about. But then we're also going to talk about, I've played Control now. We've both been playing this little game called Risk of Rain 2. So we're going to chat about that. And then we're going to let Steven give his thoughts on It Part 2. So
I'm going to talk about a few other things too, but I feel like I have the most to say about It Chapter 2, the funniest movie of 2019.
And that's where I get to the psychotic state, so we'll get there. But anyway, let's dive right into Nintendo and their Nintendo Direct from this week. Like I said, I love when Nintendo Directs happen. There's a lot of excitement. I really like that they come out the day before and they're like, "Hey everybody, we're going to do a Nintendo Direct tomorrow," and it's like all people are talking about the day before, and then it happens, and it's all people are talking about for the next day or two. It's great. So I'm just going to go down the list of highlights. If I miss something that you wanted to talk about, Steven, I don't think I will, but if I do.
Pretty much the two things I want to talk about were back to back to where I had whiplash, so I think
he did. I was behind, and Steven was texting like, "What? And I was like,
to be fair,
oh man, I gotta get ready. Something's coming, and like I just kept on rolling. And nothing really.
To be fair, I didn't spoil anything.
No, you didn't.
But it was very much a like, "Hey Steven and probably 3 other people in the world, this announcement's for you."
All right, so let's get down through these. So one of the first I don't know if this is in order or not, and we may not cover everything that happened in the Direct here, but we're just going to talk about some highlights. So SNES games are finally coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. This has been something that's been rumored for months, and obviously a lot of people were hoping this would happen. And so they finally confirmed that it's going to happen. Those games appeared on the Switch on September 5th, so they're already out. If you have a Switch and you have the online service, you have access to these games. They dropped 20 games. There's a bunch of websites that have lists of which ones are worth playing, but like there's a Zelda title in there. There's some Mario stuff.
Star Fox is on there.
Star Fox is in there. So, and that Star Fox game is like one of the games that's known for like just really pushing the system. Like that was one of the last things they really did. Anyway, that's exciting. Kind of a quiet piece of news that has come out of this is the NES games were releasing monthly, right? So they're releasing like 1 or 2 games a month, every month. And then people were like, okay, eventually they're going to run out and they're going to do the SNES games. And so now they've dropped 20 all at once, and they quietly announced that they're not going to be releasing them monthly. They're just going to do bigger batches every couple months, we assume. Maybe a year. Who knows?
Yeah.
So this is interesting. I don't really personally care. Like, any of them being available for free, I say free, like I'm already paying for this service. But any of them being available is like a cool, okay, cool. But like, I don't necessarily want, like, if these were available for purchase, I wouldn't be buying them. If that makes sense.
Right.
So I don't necessarily care how quickly they release them because I'll play them if I feel like it. But I know there's a lot of folks that are upset because they want this content. So
yeah,
they talked.
I think that. Sorry, I think that's cool. Just the SNES stuff.
I do too.
Nintendo's smart to acknowledge that their company built on nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be cool. I think I saw someone say this in a comment. If we ended up where, like, they released N64 classics on the Switch, because I was a part of that group of people that never had an N64, so I missed out on a lot of classic games.
Really?
Because my first system was a PlayStation 1.
Wow.
So we were PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, then I eventually got a GameCube because of Smash and Zelda.
Right.
And then I went up to Xbox 360 and then PS4. So I missed out on all of the game changer Nintendo games, and so I would love to see N64 classics come to Switch someday.
Yeah, I would. Well, I would too, because N64 was my first. That's the first console I ever played on, but like, I probably more realistically sit in your camp of like PS1 and GameCube, because those are the ones that I went up to my parents and said, "Hey, can we get one of these? Can I get this game?" Whereas like the N64 games that we had were games that my mom had. So like we had Donkey Kong 64, and like I remember playing the fool out of that, but I number one don't remember but one or two levels of, and I know I never beat because I was a small child and did not have the brain nor the finger dexterity to play through the final rounds of that game. So I would love to go back and actually beat those. But anyway, so yeah, that would be cool. Okay. Then they talked about Smash Brothers Ultimate DLC character updates. So they announced that they were like, okay, we got the release date for Banjo. Bam, it's today. And I was just like, yes, I love Banjo.
There were a lot of
just it's out today. Yeah. That's the best thing to do, though, honestly, in my opinion. I think it's just that's the way to do it.
Right.
Announce something, oh, hey, this is coming, and then the day it's ready to go, bam, is that. Played Banjo on stream Saturday, actually. Got to try him out. He's a lot of fun. I was a little loose, not rusty on my Smash skills, so it took me some getting used to, but I really enjoyed playing him. It's a lot of fun. The music is probably I don't want to say the best part, but one of the best parts of having Banjo in Smash, because his music's great. It was really funny fighting Duck Dog, because I feel like in a lot of ways they're the same character. Like there's a peck move when you use like the A button, the regular attack, where like the duck just kind of like pokes over and goes like 100 pecks, and Banjo and Kazooie have an exact same move as that, and so it's kind of funny seeing them together. But anyway, other than that, really cool. Then they announced the next DLC character from the character pack 1, because they also announced that they're going to be another character pack, and they're going to end up supporting characters till like 2022, I think they said.
That's crazy. So
crazy. I'm glad, though, because there's a lot that people haven't seen dropped in that they want. And honestly, I feel like at this point, with Smash being, Smash Ultimate, and it's just kind of they know they can have a big moment with Smash anytime they talk about it, even though the game's out. And obviously it's not as big as when the game first released, but being able to every direct say, hey, we've got another character we're ready to talk about, that's going to keep that game keep its momentum going. So I think it's smart for them to continue to do new characters, as long as, personally, if they could, to me, it would be smart to do it until the Switch is done. You know what I mean? Like, when we move to the Switch 2 or whatever, the next we're gonna have to make a new game just to upgrade. I feel like if they really want to keep Smash rolling, just keep announcing characters. I don't know how big it can really get, but it's got to hit a point at some point.
But moving forward, they're gonna you can't do anything less. If they do make another Smash game,
right?
They can't do anything less than everyone is here.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that Switch roster too big, and they've really screwed themselves over in the future.
And there's a lot of people who keep saying is this the last Smash that we'll ever see? Is this just going to continue to grow?
Could be.
I think it could too. My question is just what happens when we do get the next Switch? What is the next console going to look like? Can it port up? I don't know. It'll be interesting.
The creator of Smash is going to announce that there's not another Smash game, and the next day Nintendo's going to announce exciting new IP called Mega Bash Siblings or something.
Wow. But
it's nothing like Smash.
I kind of skipped ahead. I started to say, and then I skipped you up to the new DLC character pack because I don't really care. I don't really know much about this character or care. But Fatal Fury's Terry Bogard will be the next DLC fighter. So cool.
If you guys like Ken and like hats, you're gonna love Terry Bogard.
Because he's Ken with a hat and a mullet ponytail
and
jeans and cut off shirt.
Yeah,
gonna be a great time.
Which Ken also has.
Oh yeah,
Ken has the cut off.
True. So yeah. Anyway, Terry will be released sometime in November. So just a couple months away. So that's pretty exciting. Who do you think is going to be the last character in this particular?
There was a lot of buzz about Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden being the next DLC fighter, and as much as I would love to play as Ryu Hayabusa in a Smash game, it's kind of like the Bayonetta problem, where I don't know if you've ever played a Ninja Gaiden game, or at least a modern one, but those games they're hard M, with the gore.
Right.
And so it would be really jarring to play as him correctly, to capture his essence without him, dismembering Pac-Man. Which why'd I say Pac-Man? He's literally one of the only ones that doesn't have a body. I had so many other options.
Pac-Man's mouth and just closes him. He makes him disappear, do his dying animation.
Just grabs him from both edges of the mouth and just pulls, and just you hear.
Yeah, and he just disappears. That would be great.
Yep, brutal.
Man, I wish they had Nintendo take that idea and do something with it, because that's funny. I personally
John Wick
would
kills
love
Pac-Man.
for Eevee to somehow be a DLC fighter, just because I love Eevee. But I'd also be down for one of the new Pokemon coming to Sun and Shield.
Yeah,
or not Sun and
I
Shield,
feel
Sword and Shield.
I feel like there needs to be a new Pokemon, because they did add Incineroar.
Yeah,
but I feel like Pokemon is one of those sides of one of those Nintendo properties that isn't getting a lot of representation in Smash, that as much representation as it could.
Well,
because
that's the thing. It's if you look at proportionally, there are probably more characters from Pokemon in it than any other franchise. But also,
I feel like Fire Emblem might have it beat at this point.
Well, that's true. Fire Emblem's really catching up. But I guess Fire Emblem is those are really two similar properties, because if you look at Mario, every single, other than Toad, every single important character in that game is playable in Smash. But that's still what, 6, 7 people, whereas in Pokemon it's there's 8 or so in Smash right now.
I guess what I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out my feelings on the matter. With Pokemon, and I think that the reason that I feel like Pokemon isn't very well represented is because most of the Pokemon they have in there are like, they don't feel like creature Pokemon, because you got like Incineroar and Greninja who basically move like humans. You've got Mewtwo who moves like a human. And so like I would love to see like a lower generation, like a lower evolution form Pokemon, like Eevee is an example. I personally don't see how they do Eevee, but like having a Pokemon that plays more like Squirtle or Ivysaur that actually feels like they use Pokemon moves rather than like Incineroar, who's literally like bringing a wrestling ring into his moves. Like, you know, make it feel more like a Pokemon character rather than a Smash character, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It would be an interesting concept if they did another Pokemon trainer. Like,
I've thought for a while that they totally should do that. Like,
that
have
would
red
be
and
cool.
blue.
Yeah. Or not even like a named trainer, but like, let's do the Gen 2 starters, or let's do, you know, the Sun and Moon starters in it with a trainer. You know what I mean? Something just to get three, you know, a similar concept of here's the three starters of another generation that you can switch between and use all three. That's such a cool mechanic where like they really should do more with that, and that requires basically making 3 fighters in one. Right. But it's a neat concept. Like, and I'm a big fan of Smash characters that kind of make their own rules. I like the concept of ice climbers. I like Pokemon Trainer, Sheik and Zelda being able to transform back and forth. I think those characters are really cool because they kind of bring an element of where they come from into this arena, and they stand out that way. So I would like to see more Pokemon Trainer style characters, but I don't see that happening because that's a big task. It is a lot, but who knows? We'll see. Then, to no surprise, Overwatch was finally confirmed for Nintendo Switch. I'm glad they did that first. That was like the very first announcement. I'm glad they just got that out of the way.
Very quick. Here's Overwatch.
I was a little nervous that it was going to end up being like, that was going to be their mic drop moment at the end. And I was just going to be like, oh, man, that sucks. Because like, if it had been their mic drop, everyone would have known about it. So I'm glad they did that early on. But that's finally announced. Cool. I think Brody's comment on this was like, he was saying something like, I don't even want to think about how horrible the frame rate on that game is going to be.
Oh my gosh. Every time I see a shooter for Switch, I have a hard time getting excited because as much as I love my Switch, it does not control in FPS games near as well as a PlayStation does. Right. There's something about it. And so, like, Overwatch on Switch is, like, that's really cool for the people that don't have anywhere else to play it. But for me, like, why would I play Overwatch on Switch if I had? I mean, I don't play Overwatch to begin with. But, you know, if I liked Overwatch, why would I play it on Switch rather than PlayStation? Right. But that is good news for them. But for me personally, it's just, like, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. Good stuff.
Good for you guys. Then, this was their mic drop moment, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for Switch. So this was the game that was first released on Wii back in 2011, and is now coming to Switch in 2020. What did you think about that, Steven? Are you a Xenoblade person?
I feel like I really could be. But every single time I hear someone talk about the Xenoblade games, it's either the diehards who absolutely love it or the ones who are like, F this game, it's too long, nothing happens, it's so complicated. And so, like, I mean, it's a JRPG that has big robots, which I love big robots, and I love JRPGs sometimes. So to me, it's like, that could be really cool, right. But at the same time, I don't know, it could be a good jumping on point. I'll have my eye on it, but I'm indifferent towards Xenoblade. I just know that Shulk is really feeling it half the time. And that's literally all I know about Xenoblade, is that Shulk is really feeling it and that he can see the future. And that there's robots.
I'm not as excited about this one. I didn't play the original, though, so I'm not, and I don't really know much about the Xenoblade Chronicles games. But anyway, if that is something exciting for you, I'm happy for you. because I know a lot of people probably aren't excited about this, but I am. Animal Crossing New Horizons got a nice little summary video of what they talked about at E3, which I thought was interesting. I kind of was hoping they would share at least some new information if they were going to show it.
Yeah. But
it was still nice to see, and I've watched this video probably at least 3 times just because it's a nice little package of everything that they did talk about at E3, and like a lot of it you had to watch the Nintendo Treehouse stuff, and you had to kind of not dig, but like you had to actually go watch and watch through a bunch of stuff. But anyway, yeah, it was really just a summary of all that. It talked about all the features and how you're coming to the island and you're going to be crafting stuff, and you're going to build your own community and everything like that. So it's really, really fun. Then they showed a new Pokemon Sword and Shield trailer with new features. Before I go on, Steven, I assume you didn't want to say anything about Animal Crossing because you didn't jump in to interrupt me, but...
Wow. You're just... Apparently, I'm only capable of providing my input if I'm interrupting, and apparently I'm incapable of liking it, and I had nothing to say about Animal Crossing. I really didn't.
Didn't think so. I'm sorry, interrupting was probably rude. I just meant, like, normally you would be interjecting, like, hey, yeah, I'm really excited about this.
I know, I'm just giving you a hard time. I mean, Animal Crossing, I never got into it. I never played it. But I understand that, like, I've talked to people who like it. Like, games like that and Stardew Valley, I personally don't get, but I've never tried them. But after talking with people who do like them, I get why they get it, you know? And so for me, trying to understand vicariously through people watching the Animal Crossing footage, the whole time I was sitting there just like, people are really going to like this. So that's good. I'm happy.
So excited. I haven't been into it. I haven't really gotten into the Animal Crossing train since GameCube. I tried New Leaf when I got a 3DS, and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't keep up with it. So I'm really, really excited to jump into this, and I think I'll really catch on to it in the Switch. But anyway, then Pokemon Sword and Shield, let's jump into that. They announced 3 new features, and hidden within those new features were a lot of confirmations that I needed. Okay? Now, Steven, you, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are aware, not all of the Pokemon are going to be in this game. Okay? We're up to like 800 or something Pokemon now. Game Freak has confirmed that not all of them will be in it. At this point, I'd really love to see that number of like how many Pokemon are in this game versus exist in the world, because we've got to be cruising up to like 500 confirmed at this point, because almost every trailer there's a new, oh, hey, look, there's such and such, or oh, hey, look, there's that character that everybody likes. So I'd really love to know what number we're up to of Pokemon confirmed. Maybe 500 is a little generous, but anyway, I feel like whatever. So, you can be upset about that. That's fine. I understand. I'm no longer upset because all of my babies are confirmed. So in this trailer, we got confirmation of all of the Eevees. There's literally a Pokemon camp. It wasn't in the direct trailer, but Pokemon released almost an identical trailer, but with different Pokemon in it right after the direct. And there was a camp, which we'll get there. There was a camp that had an Eevee and all of its evolutions. So Leafeon, Flareon, Vaporeon, Umbreon, Sylveon, who am I forgetting? Espeon. Everybody was there. Glaceon. So all of them were confirmed. And then also in one of the camp footages, there was I forget the name because I've never had one, but it's the baby Lucario. It's like Ridicule or something like that. Regaltoe, something like that. But it's a baby Lucario. So that confirms Lucario. So I'm good. Like, I'm done. I don't have to worry about any other Pokemon being in this game because those are the ones I need. Now I just really
I've not seen any of.
There's another evolution that they're gonna add. That's my only next step is, can we get a new evolution?
Yeah,
then I'm good.
I don't I don't think they've confirmed any of my Pokemon.
So who are you looking for, Steven? Who are you looking for?
I would have to think on it. Umbreon is my favorite evolution, so that's good. I didn't really doubt that they would leave out any evolutions, though, because that would cause an absolute
uproar. It's one of those things, like, you got to think. Eevee is probably the number 2 most beloved Pokemon, right behind Pikachu. And then you got to consider, like you said, if they left, they left Leafeon out. Oh my God, people would be they would be raging more than they already are. So I felt pretty confident, but I'm glad Lucario's there too, because I wasn't so sure about Lucario, because I know he's probably a fan favorite, but you never know.
Oh, he's way up there. People love Lucario just because of Smash. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'd have to think on it. Get back to me on that. But it's more obscure Pokemon, probably. Mm-hmm. And probably more obscure Pokemon from Gen 2.
And see, that's one of the things, sorry not to interrupt you, but it's one of the things I find interesting is I feel like I've been seeing a lot of more obscure Pokemon in there. Like there was some spider Pokemon, I forget the name, but we saw him in this footage. There's a lot of like really crazy ones. Like there's another cat Pokemon that was in there. I forget what it was called. But I don't know. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of really out there ones. So I really hope that, like I said, we have 800 Pokemon that exist right now, and obviously they're adding probably 100 new ones. Like, I'd really love to know what that number is of like how many are we losing, because at this point, with how diverse it feels to me, I'd love to know just what that number is. But
honestly, I would be shocked if we got half.
See, that's kind of where I'm at. But again, we're just seeing so much variety so far that I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I haven't decided if I'm going to get it yet.
Oh, Steve.
It really depends on like if you know how many games I have to get this year.
Yeah.
I've got so many games. And so like to me, because I'm getting Jedi Fallen Order in November, which means I may not be getting Doom Eternal.
Right.
And if I do decide to get Doom Eternal, it's going to be like, okay, do I want Doom Eternal or do I want Pokemon?
See, that's an obvious and easy choice in my...
I'm pretty sure that if I got Pokemon, everyone on the channel would riot and be like, what are you doing, Steven? Get Doom. You owe us Doom. Feed us what we want. We want the Doom.
Get Doom. I'll get Pokemon. I'll stream all the Pokemons. You stream all the Dooms, and we'll be fine. And then you can catch up in Pokemon later if you feel like it.
Sure.
Okay, so I went on a long rabbit trail to talk about how I'm excited that my Pokemon are confirmed. Let's talk about the actual new features that they showed. So, number one, they showed 2 new Pokemon. The first one is Poltegeist, and it's a little teapot that's got possessed ghost tea inside of it that apparently has its own aroma and flavor. And if you build enough relationship with the tea pot, it may let you drink its tea. And I don't know how to take that. And I didn't know how to take it in the direct, and I still don't know how to take it now.
Okay. What's the second Pokemon called? The bird?
So the other bird, I don't remember what it's called.
I don't remember what it's called. It's a pelican. That's what
pelican.
It is.
Hang on, I'm gonna find it. You keep chatting about what it does.
All right, cool. It's a pelican, and when it uses surf, it catches a fish in its mouth, and it's just sitting there with the fish in its mouth. And if it gets attacked, when it has the fish in its mouth, it uses its special move, Gulp Missile, which is a terrible name for anything.
It's amazing.
And it launches the fish like a missile at what attacked it. And I'm just over here thinking, like, these are 2 of the most uncomfortable Pokemon I've ever heard of, because one of them is a haunted teapot that's like, come drink my tea. And the other one is a pelican that's like, hey, take my Gulp Missile. Like, I don't know. They just seem weird.
It's called Cramorant.
That's right.
But yeah, Gulp Missile is pretty hilarious. Honestly, though, it sounds like a good move. Like, that's basically a free counterattack So it could be, I'm sure that'll have a lot. I'm sure that'll be a Pokemon we probably see in like championships and stuff. Unless we see a lot of Pokemon that have that. That just seems like a really good move to have lined up.
Right. It's going to get wrecked by lightning.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's going to be real weak against lightning.
Yeah.
Then they obviously announced, they announced because they haven't talked about this before, but they announced that we can, we'll have clothing that we can change. They confirmed hairstyles, confirmed a lot of hairstyles, which is good because I played even Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon had more hairstyles than X and Y, but it was still kind of lacking. So this looks like it's going to have a lot of options for customization for your character. I laughed because in the direct they were like, with a lot of selections of outerwear and I was like, I swear to God, if they say underwear, and then it was like gloves, and I was just like, okay, sure. So yeah, you can pick jackets and gloves.
I mean, you never know. They're talking about drink my haunted tea and Gulp Missile, but that was the next step.
I mean, Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say about Cramorant. So we don't know yet if that fish that he swallows or gets in his mouth, we don't know if that's another Pokemon. So that could be a fish Pokemon that's going to be confirmed later.
And if it's just a regular fish,
what does that mean?
Have we ever had regular fish? Like, what does that mean?
No, we've never. There've never just been like normal fish, and we'll get to that here in a second too, because they also announced camp, which I am 100% behind camp. Okay, basically in the wild area, anytime you feel like it, you can open up your menu, hit the camp button, and you'll set up a camp. And you're basically just at a little campsite, and you have your Pokemon just kind of free roaming, and so you can play with them. Like we saw a ball toy, we saw like a little stick toy that you play like with a cat. We saw a lot of interaction between you and your Pokemon, but also like your Pokemon could play with each other, and that will help them kind of grow and help them fight better and all that sort of stuff. Something I never really realized until the later, like the most recent Pokemon games, is like taking the time to get to know your Pokemon is really important, because like in battles, I don't know if you know this, you probably know this, Steven, but in battles, like if you have a really good relationship with your Pokemon, like they will do things that they're not supposed to be able to do. Like they might get attacked, and then it's like, Eevee dodged the move because it didn't want you to worry, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that in Let's Go Pikachu.
Yeah, that was, I think I first started noticing it, maybe it was in, no, I think it was actually in Sun and Moon that I really started to notice it. But yeah, Let's Go Eevee, it really happens because that your Eevee, your main starter, because they're constantly with your person, they're always bonding with you. So you get a really high bond with them pretty quick. So anyway, so I love that aspect. I love getting to bond with the Pokemon, and camp is going to be an awesome thing about that. And then something else you can do at camp. Oh, well, one other interesting thing about camp is I mentioned earlier there was a shot of Eevee and all of its evolutions, right? That's like 9 Pokemon in total. Let me do a quick math here. We got the 3 starters. Jolteon was the only one I didn't mention last time. We got Vaporeon, Flareon, Jolteon, Espeon, Umbreon, Glaceon, Leafeon, and then Eevee. So that's 8 Pokemon right there, I think. Am I missing somebody? Sylveon. So that's 9. So there's 9 Pokemon in one shot, okay? So obviously right out the bat, that's not your team, right? Because you can only have 6 in a team. So that's at least 3 more. Yeah. So there's a question of, number one, how many can we have in camp? Because 9 seems like a weird number to cut off at. And then secondly, how do we select who's going to be in that? I would assume, like, Pokemon boxes. I would assume there will be a box that can be like camp, and you can just put all the Pokemon that you probably want to use. Like, because I know a lot of people, or at least for me, I catch some Pokemon sometimes just to kind of complete my decks, and then they land in a box somewhere, and I don't ever do anything with them. That sounds horrible, but it is what I do.
Well, that's kind of how you played Fire Emblem too.
I mean, yeah, but it's different because they weren't in a ball, trapped in a box. They were. I gave them life, Stephen. I saved them from doom. But anyway, so I would imagine it's got to be some sort of box, right? That you'll have a camp box, and it can only hold 10 or however many. And those will be who you can play with at your camp, and I'm sure it'll rotate and stuff. What would be interesting is if it was, hey, here's your team plus 3 or 4 random Pokemon from your collection. I personally would rather be able to select those 4 and just lock them in, because honestly, I probably would have, my team of whatever. But like I'm probably gonna, once I find an Eevee, my goal is to just get all the Eeveelutions. So I would want my Eeveelutions to be in that camp session, but I'm sure they wouldn't all be on my team. I'm gonna have to at least branch out somewhere. So like Lucario, or I'm sure there's gonna be a new Pokemon that I'm really gonna want to attach to. So anyway, that'll be interesting to see how that happens.
I'm just gonna set up camp and just pull out 9 Magikarps with no water provided. And I'm just gonna watch them all flop around.
And another thing, so in the wild area, you can see other people's camps and walk up and go into it. And they said that they recommend that you do go do this and you do try to interact with other people's Pokemon, and like you'll get to bring a Pokemon into that as well. So that'll be really interesting, and that raises a lot of questions like, will we just randomly see other characters in our server in the wild area? Like, is that how that's going to work? Is that how we'll group up for raids? Yeah. Who knows? How do your friends group up?
Someone's going to come to my floppy Magikarp camp with a Cramorant, and he's just going to be like, look at all the gold missiles.
Look at all the gold missiles. Oh, sorry, man. I'm getting on all. I've done a lot of research on this. There is some Reddit thread that has a bunch of Pokemon leaks for Sword and Shield, and so far none of them have been wrong. And one of them was that a new Pokemon would be announced, and it's basically a seagull, and it has a special move called Gulp Missile, and it talks about, when it uses Surf, it'll come up with a fish in its mouth or a Pikachu.
What?
Yes. So apparently, so either this is misinformation, or there's like a 10% chance that when he comes back up, there will be a Pikachu in his mouth.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
I don't know why that would be a thing, but I kind of want to see it. I kind of want it to happen. That'd be cool. Because what if it did that and then it had a lightning attack? That would be cool. I'm just saying. Anyway, last thing to talk about with this, they also announced curry. So to make this a little bit more like Breath of the Wild, they decided to throw cooking into this. So you can now make curry on rice for your camp. You can eat it with your Pokemon. It'll help, raise your bond level with them or whatever, and their friendship level. So that's all nice and exciting. But it also raises more questions. What are these sausages made out of that they're putting in this curry and rice? Because there are no animals in the Pokemon world, and sausage is meat almost, unless it's some sort of tofu, which that could be a solution. But what are they eating Pokemon? I don't understand, and it makes me nervous.
Yes, they are eating Pokemon. We've seen evidence of this.
I don't like it.
It's the curry is Pokemon.
The curry is Pokemon. The Pokemon are eating Pokemon. It's all right. It's just the way of the world. Let's see. Yep. Deadly Premonition 2 and the original game are coming to Switch. Cool. I don't know much about either of those games.
I don't either.
Super Kirby Clash Now is available on Switch now. It was released on the day of the Direct. It's a free-to-start 4-player quest for loot Kirby game. It has over 100 quests and supports 4-player local and online co-op.
I downloaded it. I haven't played it yet, but I downloaded it.
You were like, I'm kind of interested in this because it does seem like it's got roles that you're trying to play, and you kind of have to work together as a team. So I was like, oh, that sounds like Steven.
Could be fun.
Yeah. maybe I'll have to download it and then we'll have to do something with it.
Yeah.
The Pokemon devs talked about Little Town Hero. It gets a new name and a release date. It was formerly known as Town. Now it's called Little Town Hero. It's going to be out in October 16th.
What did you think of Little Town Hero?
I'm going to be honest. Somebody was texting me during the Direct. What? Oh my God. So I skipped over this one to try and catch up. So I really don't have any thoughts or opinions on this game. I remember seeing it when it was first announced as Town, and I was just kind of like, I don't think this is for me. So I've kind of tuned out information about it.
I thought it looked like, you know, like, I never would have guessed it was Game Freak, and I say that kind of in a bad way because, you know, Game Freak, when you hear that, you think, oh my gosh, Pokemon. Right. Like, that's a big legacy, but I don't see any of that legacy working in their favor in what I've seen for Little Town Hero.
Honestly, to me,
personally,
I'm frustrated a little bit that they're working on anything else other than Pokemon right now. Just because I know there's so many people that are upset about the national dex, and like I understand their frustrations, and I also understand what Game Freak has been saying, which is just like, we don't have enough time to finish this game and get every single Pokemon in here, you know, because of whatever reasons.
And yet they're making this other game that comes out before Pokemon.
Right. It's like they say that, and then we have so much evidence of just like people keep posting things of like, Pokemon has been reusing animations for years. You know, what are they? You know, they're not making new animations, so why is it so difficult? Like, people just keep finding things, and they're like, why is this so difficult? You know, because there's all these different ways it should be easy, quote unquote. But then, you know, you look at a game like this, and it's like, oh gosh, Game Freak, why are you doing this? Why are you working on this right now? So I don't know. And obviously they probably have a separate team doing it, but me personally, I'm just like, but you could have this team working on Pokemon. Why? So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Luigi's Mansion 3 got a new mode announced. It's basically a Luigi versus Gooigi mode. It's called the Scream Park mode. It's basically a versus mode because we've already seen a cooperative mode with Luigi's Mansion. So I'm excited about that. I know we're going to be doing Let's Plays of Luigi's Mansion, and so that's just another mode that we get to do in it. So I'm excited. I think that'll be fun.
They used wording in the Luigi's Mansion part that I thought was really funny, and no one's probably going to laugh at this, but he was talking about like the different floors, and he was like, "There's a disco floor, there's a pirate restaurant. You get the idea." And I was just like, what? No, I don't.
There's an Egyptian mummy floor. Like, there was so many
it's just like,
out there floors.
He names 3 things that have nothing to do with each other. It's like, you get it. No, I don't.
I really don't get it. I'm so excited for Luigi's Mansion. That's going to be a great game.
It looks fun.
I cannot wait. And then they talked a bunch about some new ports and remasters that are coming out. Return of the Obra Dinn, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Divinity Original Sin 2. That was one you were excited about, Steven.
So that's interesting because that's a game that I would love to play that with somebody, but unfortunately, and this isn't a knock towards you, it's just a fact. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends anymore that are committed enough to a game that demands, because that is such a big game that requires like an entire afternoon basically to get any progress in it. And it's a great game, but it's one of those games that does feel like it's too much game. But the interesting thing about that is that you can import your Steam save, so you actually have cross save with PC.
That's cool.
And that's a really neat feature. Yeah.
They talked about Doom 64. They talked about the Assassin's Creed Rebel collection. So that's Black Flag, and Rogue, both in one collection, coming to Switch. So that's exciting. And then they talked about a little game called Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcasts.
Okay.
Now, Steven,
I'll take it from here.
I think you want to talk about this game, so I'm going to open up my coffee,
like,
and I'm going to drink it while you talk about this game.
The year is 2002. I'm a young kid, okay? I love Star Wars. I'm all about Star Wars, and there's this game called Star Wars Jedi Knight 2. And I go over to my friend's house to play it on their PC. I eventually get my own copy. You play as this character named Kyle Katarn, who is like Han Solo if he were a Jedi. He's the original person who found the Death Star plans. It's just amazing game. Like people say that it's probably still the best Jedi game ever made, just because they really nailed the lightsaber combat integrated with the Force powers. And that was just a super surface level way to describe that game. But basically, this is a game that is 17 years old, that people aren't talking about it. People are just remembering it fondly, you know? Like, no one's been demanding like, oh, we need a new one of those games, or we need a remaster of that game. And out of flippin' nowhere, on this Nintendo Direct, I see Kyle Katarn's face, and this dude's like, oh, be a double agent for the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. I spit up my water, basically, and I'm like, do what now? Because it literally came out of nowhere. Like, it was super shocking. And it was one of those things where it was like, this has to mean something, you know? Like, this can't just be like them pulling this out of the closet to release it. And I did some digging. JK2 is coming to Switch and PlayStation, not just Switch. Also, JK3, the better of the games. JK2 has the better story. JK3 has the better gameplay. It's a whole thing, but they're both great. That is coming to PS4 and Switch next year, and that's coming with its multiplayer. So I'm over here thinking, not only do you have a 17-year-old game being ported to the Switch and the PlayStation, but this game is retcon.
Right.
Rogue One made it to where Kyle Katarn doesn't exist. So why? Like what would possess them to do this? And so I'm just over here thinking about what they did with Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Back in 2016, they re-released, like they ported Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 to PlayStation, PC, and Xbox. Then sure enough, 2 years later, they announced the Black Order. And so I'm just thinking, oh man, what if this is them testing the waters to make another Jedi Knight game? And what if we're getting Kyle Katarn back? Because he's my favorite Star Wars character. Right. He's great. He's awesome.
It is interesting that, yeah, it's been retconned. So why would they bring it back? Like, I feel like this is something you should let die or bury. Or reboot, you know, and make it make sense. But
yeah. Every single video game, I feel like that Star Wars, like every Star Wars video game that's come out, has held pretty strict to canon. Like Battlefront 2, its story had to do with Operation Cinder, and it was a part of the new canon. Obviously, we know about Fallen Order is going to be a part of the new canon, and so like all this stuff has been new canon. And for them to, because Jedi Knight, Kyle Katarn was a big deal not only in the games, but he was like Luke's one of his right-hand men in the books. Right. And so Kyle Katarn, when you think of extended universe, he's one of the main guys. And so for them to basically re-release his highest moment of existence is like super weird. And so I say all this to explain, because this is when I freaked out in the group text and was like, absolutely losing my mind, because all this stuff hit me at once. Like, not only was it like this game that I loved as a kid is coming back, but it was also like, wait,
what does this mean?
There's more to this. And so I was just like bombarded with like, holy crap, what does this mean? What's going on? And so I freaked out, and Jake got mad at me.
I don't know that I got mad at you. I guess I did. I was like, I'm behind. Yeah, because I was.
You said in all caps, I am behind. Stop.
Stop. I'm behind. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to know, because like when the E3 Direct happened, I also got behind, and so Brody was at least nice enough to text in the group. He was like, Jake, you need to watch this like now. Like go watch it right the fuck now. Yeah. You need to see all of it.
If I ever say anything like that, like chances are, like and just peek into how I watch directs before I go back into Jedi Knight. But if I see something that I think you or Brody or both will like, I typically won't say anything. But when I freak out, it's something that I'm pretty sure that like no one else cares about. So if you ever see that, you probably shouldn't have to worry.
That's kind of what
it's probably just me.
I learned this time. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I just don't need to freak out.
But all that to be said, there will be coverage of Jedi Knight 2 on the PC. But we'll talk about
that later.
We'll talk about that later. It's a whole thing. But that game will get coverage, and I'm really excited to play it. And honestly, Jake, it's $10. I would recommend you get it and try it because it's
on the Switch or
dated on the Switch. On the Switch and PlayStation, it's gonna be $10.
Yeah, try it.
So like it's gonna feel dated because the graphics, obviously, they may have done a restoration on it, but like the gameplay is really fun. You feel like a Jedi. So that's cool. But yeah, so Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, look forward to seeing it on the channel later this month. And if you yourself haven't played it, it's coming to PlayStation, Switch, it's on PC, get it. If you're remotely a Star Wars fan, it's awesome.
It's awesome. Then there were a bunch of littler announcements. They talked about Tetris 99 is getting like a co-op mode. That's going to be kind of cool. And some new content updates. Mario, Sonic at the Olympic Games. They talked about The Witcher 3 is coming again. They've talked about Dragon Quest 11. Just stuff that we've heard a lot about. Like there were a couple new things like Rogue Company, which is like some sort of shooter thing. I don't really know.
It's a PvP arena hero shooter kind of thing.
And then they talked about, this is the one I'll end on because I know Steven will want to talk about it, but Daemon X Machina got a new demo.
Yes.
Which I guess is really more of an extended demo to what they've already released, which is very exciting.
It's basically it's a free prologue. You get to play through like the first 5 or 6 missions with some optional free missions that you can repeat however much you want. So you basically get to have a head start on the first 30 minutes to an hour of the game.
That's so cool.
And it's pretty good. I'll just talk about the demo very briefly. I absolutely lost my mind again on the Discord when I looked up the soundtrack, because no joke, this soundtrack rivals Doom.
That's saying something.
It's
coming from
that
Steven.
good. That's saying something coming from me, because I love the Doom soundtrack. But like, I was just hanging out. Well, I was just standing in the hangar working on my mech, and there's just this guitar solo, just shredding in my ear, and I'm just like thinking, good Lord, game, I'm just sitting here looking at pictures. I'm not even doing anything cool. I don't deserve this. But the game plays really well. Like, they made a bunch of improvements. I've talked to my brother Andrew from Friendly Fire Games. He's a big Armored Core fan, or was like I was. That's why we're both excited about this game. But he was talking about how they improved it a lot from the first demo. I will say that it is a lot of game. Like, it's got a lot of mechanics to it, and playing with the default control scheme, not gonna lie, playing it enough for like an hour hurt my hands. Just because, and again, I've got the regular Joy-Cons with the dock, so I was playing with that. I really need to get a Pro controller.
You do.
But it was just felt very cramped, and I was hard pressed to do certain things. But on the bright side, you actually can customize the entire control map.
That's cool.
So I thought it was really interesting, because it's almost like whenever you make a mech, and you can have multiple custom sets. Whenever you make a mech, you can make a control scheme for that mech. So if like you have a mech that has a shield in one hand and a gun in the other, you could make it to where the triggers
holds up
like
the shield,
the left and
right, one shoots.
Yeah. Yeah, but like since you wouldn't need to hold them both down at once, because when you press the trigger button to hold up the shield, you just hold it up. You could put your guns all on one side of triggers. So like both left triggers could be your weapons, and then the right triggers could be for maneuverability, like dashing and jumping. So like it really lets you kind of think about like, okay, how do I play? Where am I going to be most dexterous with how I'm flying this? So like the game is, it's a lot. I'm just pumped to dive into it, to play it, to do the co-op, to do everything, to build some mechs. I can't fully endorse it to other people yet, because like I know I'm gonna have a really good time with it, but it's so different from games that have come out in recent years that it's like I have a hard time figuring out if and who would like it. You know?
I need to sit down and try the demo. I thought about doing it today before the podcast, but I took a nap.
Right.
But and I needed that nap.
It's Sunday.
I needed that nap.
Yeah.
So I don't even feel a little guilty saying that.
I would recommend, like, if you do that, it would probably help you to use a TV. Like, don't try to do it handheld. And like just really give it a chance and try to not be distracted when you play it, because it does give you a lot of information. But it has a lot of potential, and I think that if you were able to get to the point where you could really build like a speedy mech with swords and stuff, you'd probably have a ball with it. You'd probably really enjoy it. But it's a matter of getting to that point that I don't know.
You don't know how long that'll take and how it would really,
Right. Well, I do know that you can get swords in the demo. You just have to salvage them off of destroyed mechs. Which I chose to salvage other things because I didn't plan on using a sword with my build. So you could get swords in the demo and then build a speedy mech with the few parts that you have. And like you could do things like you could start basic with a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, and then for your pylon, which is basically your backup for both hands, for your pylon on your left, you could have another sword. So if you're just like, I'm about to go full all in dual swords, you could pull the shield back and get the other sword in your left hand, and so you could go dual swords.
You can't see Steven, but I'm making a lot of really excited faces.
Good. That legitimately makes me happy.
I've got to try it.
I really hope you like it.
I've got to try it.
Cool.
That's all we have for news. So let's talk about what we've been playing. Call this segment Catch Up. So let's catch up. Last week, Steven was the only one who had played Control. I was too busy beating Fire Emblem 3 Houses, so I didn't get a chance to play it. But I have now played it, and I have beaten it. It is not a very long game. So if you're looking for a good short title, I highly recommend it. However, watching you play on a live stream, Steven, made me realize that the game is really not as good until you get a lot of the powers. Because I played knowing, unlike Steven didn't want to know a lot of detail. And I'm going to try not to be spoilery with you, Steven. But I do want to talk about nothing specific, but just some generally cool things about it. That like Steven didn't want to know how many powers there were. I knew exactly how many powers there were and what they were. And I knew all the mission titles, so that like as soon as I came across it, I was like, whoop, that's a power, I'm going that direction. So I played, and I basically had every power except for one within the first 3 or 4 hours. And the only reason I say that is because you kind of have to play through the story to get to the moment where you pick up a mission to do certain things.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, the best power in the game is the launch ability that you get. I think that's the first ability you get. That is by far the best, if not the only thing you should really worry about. The only other ability you should worry about is the flying and levitation ability. And watching you play, Steven, on the live stream, I had already unlocked the levitation, and I felt this when I was playing. But I feel like the game is broken if you can't fly. Like, you were stuck in central research, and I didn't watch you live. I watched this after you had done it. And I wanted so bad. I was just like, oh, my God, he needs to go through that window, but he can't reach it. He can't get there. He's going to have to find some other way up there to get where he needs to go. And so I felt this while I was playing until I got the levitation ability. But like once you get that ability, the game is 10 million times better. And I don't know.
Well, I mean, I enjoy the game a lot. Like I talked last week.
Last week, yeah. Believe it or not.
I think. Yeah, I talked last week. That feels like a long time ago about how much I loved it, and I just had some criticisms, but I feel like I probably sound miserable when I play it on stream, but that's because like
the frame rate is
the frame rate really doesn't even bother me that much. It's more so that I feel divided because like I want to be able to pay more attention to what's happening, but I also feel like I feel like I need to be entertaining, and so I feel like Control is just a bad game for me to stream.
Right.
So maybe once I get into it more, and when I get to the point where I have more so of a understanding of the world and what's going on and everything, and I don't feel like I need to absorb every bit of information, I feel like I could stream it then. But like I feel like this most recent stream specifically, I felt like I was
more frustrated.
Like whenever I have to, I was more frustrated because like whenever I have to stop and problem solve, I feel like I'm able to give it 50% because I'm giving the other 50% to the stream,
Right.
and so I feel like I'm in turn while trying to be entertaining and funny or whatever, looking stupid because I can't figure out a puzzle, and so it's just like I'm working against myself.
To be fair, watching you on the live stream, and again, I was watching posts, so I wish I could have been there live to like help push you along, but you did not give the illusion. I did the exact same things that you were doing, and I was fully focused on the game. So that is it is an issue of the game. And like, last week you talked a little bit about your issues, which I believe were, frame rate, which I 1,000,000% agree with. It is atrocious how bad the frame rate is. And that's seriously saying something when I'm saying that. Because I am not the guy that's like, I need 60 frames per second, whatever. Like, I'm happy with what a Switch will give me, which, is not the best. But this is bad.
But when you're, like, fighting 4 guys and it's getting, like, maybe 2 frames a second, like, it's rough.
Hard to fight and do that.
Which my thing is, like, if Control were a game that everybody was talking about, I'd be like, I need to beat this now. Otherwise, it's going to get spoiled for me. But because it seems kind of niche and people aren't really talking spoilers about it that much, I feel like I can revisit it once Remedy's given it a little more love, fix the resolution, fix the frame rates and everything, so I can dive back in and have a better experience. Right. But, like, I really, really like the game. I really like what it means for potential Remedy games moving forward. It just needs some more time in the oven to fix some optimization. Some other critiques I'll give is something that you were dealing with in the live stream, but the map is so hard to follow. It's so confusing. And a lot of it... And half the time it doesn't even load in. Right. Well, like, there was one moment you were in Central Research and you were trying to get somewhere and you were like, well, I need to go through this door, but it's blocked by these rocks. And then there's supposed to be another door here, but this is just a wall. And then you eventually got there and you came through and they opened that door that was a wall. And you were like, oh, well, no wonder. This was a wall before. And I was just rolling because I knew as soon as you walked up to it, I was like, well, this is just a wall. I was like, oh, man, that opens up later. But I don't know when it did. So anyway, it's so confusing and it's so multi-layered and you never know if you're on the right layer or how you need to get somewhere. And then a lot of it is like you may find the door that connects it, but it's locked on the other side. So like you have to figure out the other way in. And I've beaten the game and I'm still running into these things like with side missions and stuff where I cannot figure out how to get to certain areas. And like I've had to look up videos and other things. So that's a huge thing. The one thing that I disagreed with you on was, you talked about Jessie and how you didn't like her as a character so far. I'm curious if you'll warm up to her later because I liked her a lot going into it.
it's surprising to me how important her relation with Polaris becomes. Like, at first, hearing about you talk about it and hear other people talk about it, which, again, I think that does kind of color my experience, because when I went into it and she was talking to herself, I knew she was talking to Polaris. But like you said, you didn't figure that out until she finally talked to somebody about how she's got this being in her head called Polaris that she's talking to. But so I knew all that, and so I understood that. So I kind of liked those moments a little bit better on the front end. But I kind of thought that was just a weird quirk. I didn't realize it was going to be super important later to who Jesse is.
Right.
But it's going to be important. But
well, yeah, the more I've played, and I think I mentioned this on the stream, probably, like, she just, I'm not bothered by, like, the relationship with Polaris, and I hope that I do end up being like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that more. I think I'm just bothered more by the execution.
Right.
Because, like, it just comes off weird to where she's talking and nothing responds.
Right.
And occasionally you'll see the blue flicker on the screen, and that's supposed to be Polaris saying something. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a little better. But, like, still, maybe just make it to where it's, like, jumbled audio to where it's some kind.
Kind of like how the
make
board
it to where,
talks to her, but she can understand it.
Right, like, yeah, make it two-way to where even if we can't understand Polaris, otherwise it's a weird execution that comes off annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
But my biggest problem with Jessie as a character has been just how inconsistent she feels.
Right.
Because depending on the person you talk to, she's either really timid and like, oh, I'm not the leader of anything, I'm not the director. And then if you talk to another person, she's like sassy and she's like, I'm the boss and everything. And so it just feels like she had a different writer for each dialogue, and I don't like that. I want, when a character does something or says something or reacts, I want to be behind what that character does. Like, people complained in Avengers Infinity War when Star-Lord ruined the plan by beating Thanos across the head when he learned that, spoilers, Gamora had died. I wasn't bothered by that at all. Like, the only thing I said was, like, it would have made more sense if he shot him, but I was mostly joking when I said that.
Right.
But it was totally in line with Star-Lord, because the character we'd been given point by point by point was he would totally do that. But, like, right now, I have no idea what Jessie would do, because I don't know who she really is.
Right.
So I just haven't made that connection yet. I hope that I do. But right now, I'm just like, I don't know. She seems inconsistent.
Yeah.
But I love the game.
Well, and you're gonna love the rest of the game. So, like, take away the issues of map and frame rate. Say the game runs perfect. The fights are hard, and that's another thing. I wish there was a way. Like, I feel like there's a difficulty spike that just happens in the middle of nowhere. Like, you could be doing one thing and just feel like you're blowing enemies away, and then the next moment you fight one guy who annihilates you, and it's just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Throw those aside. The story is crazy, and it's so freaking cool. There was one moment that I played through that I was like, Steven is gonna effing love this. It's got some really cool music. That's all I'll say. You'll know when this happens. But cool. It's so good. And then there's a lot of there's elements that you've kind of seen and probably have noticed that are going to come into play later. There's a great side mission.
Does the rubber duck quack?
No, I saw y'all doing that. I have no idea where you were when that was happening. I was like, where is he? I didn't see this rubber duck.
Can you understand me? Quack if you understand me.
Quack if you understand. It's inconclusive. There's a great mission called Fridge Duty that I'm not going to spoil for you, but it does have to do with an object like that. And it's a really cool, really weird, just side mission that you have to do. That's a lot of fun. And that's to backtrack on, so overall, I love the game too. Like, I don't know if I would give it, like you were saying, it has potential to be one of my favorite games of this year. Like, it may end up being on that list still for me, but it'd be a 5. It'd be like my 5th choice or something. Just knowing some of the other things that are coming out this year. But it's so cool when it works and when you're watching through things. But I do wish they had really sunk into this object of power thing. Number one, because I'd love more abilities in the game. But number two, because there are so many, like, just really, really weird, cool things. Like, can I spoil one that's just kind of like, it's like 1/5 of a side mission for you?
Sure.
Okay. There's this one object of power that's a traffic light. And you have to play red light, green light to stop it. So when it sets like a boundary and it's green, and when it's green you can move, and then it'll turn yellow and you know you're about to stop, and when it's red you can't move. And if you move, it resets you to the front line. So like you've got to play red light, green light to catch it to put it back. But like you don't get a power from that. That's just a object of power that you kind of have to stop.
Right.
And so I know there are a couple more like that. I don't know how many more there are like that, but like nothing comes close to Fridge Duty that I've played so far. So I wish there were more things like that.
I would love if moving forward, this was like, we already know that this is the connecting point of the Remedy properties.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about how I spoiled this for myself just a little bit. Like, I only have the context rather than the actual way they did it. But Alan Wake is in this universe.
Right.
And I would love if moving forward, Remedy games worked off this object of power premise, because you can do literally anything with the object of power premise.
And I would love it if moving forward, of power.
Right, exactly. Like Bright Falls and Alan Wake's typewriter, all that stuff. And I would love if moving forward we got a game that was like a, not necessarily a detective game, but like something in the vein of X-Files, or something like that, where you are a member of the FBC and you investigate places of power, and you basically become a superpowered supernatural investigator. Like, that sounds so cool.
It does.
And I really hope we end up there.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. To move on from Control, great game. Hope you try it out. Try it out on a PC if you can now, because that's working great. But otherwise, you might want to wait on PlayStation, especially if you have a regular PlayStation, not a Pro. But let's talk about Risk of Rain 2. So that was a game, funnily enough, last time we were filming the podcast, while we were filming, Brody was texting us like, hey, have y'all heard about this game? I'm about to buy it. I want to play with you guys. And so we all bought it. And I think that Sunday even, we played a bunch of it, and then we played some more Monday night. And then Tuesday we were all like, hey, let's stream this. And so we played a lot of Risk of Rain 2 back to back. But it's basically this, is a roguelike the right term? It's a
roguelike class-based co-op shooter. Wave-based shooter, kind of. Basically, it's like you have these different levels. Think of them as floors to a dungeon.
Yep.
You start on level 1. You have to find the exit. You have to activate the exit, do a mini boss fight. You're in level 2. Repeat process. And as time progresses, not as you progress through the dungeon. It's not a literal dungeon. I'm just using dungeon as a metaphor. But as you progress, based on how long you take, the game gets harder.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting mechanic. And normally I wouldn't be a fan of that, but the game is very generous with how it equips you.
Yes.
So
you're finding
I'm not bothered by that
constantly.
Yeah. And I love the classes.
Yeah.
We played it on Tuesday, and so if you want to, it's a hard game to just kind of explain.
We'll probably be streaming it again. Honestly, I'd rather stream that over most things.
It's a great stream game. It really is.
Yeah.
It's perfect for that.
I got the Archer on stream, so that's been my favorite class. We all got the Swordsman at the same time. You, me, and was Brody playing with us? Is that right?
He was.
Because he showed up, he joined the party, but he couldn't jump in the game. So me and Steven were like, we're really close to getting the Swordmaster. Just give us a second. And so we got the Swordmaster, and then Brody was like, cool, I got it too, because I was just in the party, which was just so funny. But, whatever.
Some kind of bull crap.
It really was. Anyway, And then you got the engineer, which is really cool.
I love the engineer.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He's got turrets and stuff.
When I play the engineer, though, like, and this may just be because of the way I play games, but, like, when I play roguelikes, when I learn enough about, like, what is offered, I kind of have a general idea of what build I want to go for. Yeah. And so I imagine I'm so unpleasant to play this game with because, like, I'm saying, like, hey, if you see this or this or this, let me know. I can do this because we need that, you know? Mm-hmm. So with the engineer, they can place 2 turrets, and the turrets benefit from any artifacts that I get, which artifacts are equipment,
right?
That increase what you do. So there are certain ones where I'm just like, hey, if I can get this, that'll really be a good thing for the team. So I probably sound like a greedy whore when I play Risk of Rain 2.
Well, at least for me, it's not an unpleasant because, like, I think I said this even in the stream. It's like Steven is the rock, or Steven is the speedboat. I think is how I described it, and I'm skiing on the back, and like I'm just having a good time, and Steven is doing all the real work, and so I'm just coasting. So like, if you tell me you need this mushroom that heals you, sure, you can have it. All I want is wings if you find them, and then I'll take anything you don't want because I'm just cramming on stuff because whatever I can find is going to help me in some way, and so I'm just taking what I get, and it's great.
Right.
But
it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We got to stream that later this week. Then to round off our conversation, Steven, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So I'm gonna get on it in just a second. Okay. I just wanted to like very briefly mention 2 things. Torchlight 2, I got it on Switch. It's basically Diablo, like Diablo 3, if it was more about the character rather than the equipment, which I really like. It feels like more of an RPG. There's a pet that you always have with you. You actually can give the pet spells. So I have a pet wolf that can summon skeletons and zombies for me. Wow. So he's my summoner. It's a fun game. It's $20. It's on PS4, Switch, Xbox, all that stuff. So if you're into action RPGs with loot, I recommend it. And it's been fun, and it's a great port too. Like I was surprised with how good the port is.
That's good.
Yeah, but then Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I've been playing that, getting excited for the Curse of the Vampire DLC because I want Moon Knight. I want to see what they do with him. Mm-hmm. And they're adding a lot of stuff to that game.
Yeah, you mentioned a horde mode and some other stuff.
Yeah, I think they may have added the horde mode already, and then they're adding something called Gauntlet, which is a series of increasingly difficult co-op challenges. And honestly, I would love to have a group to play that game with.
Right.
Because like right now, my main experience with that game has been basically picking my whole team for myself.
Right.
And then just like going through, but like to play that with a group of people, that would be a blast.
Yeah.
So like Jeremy hasn't. He's the one I've played it with the most. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping to play with him more. Maybe I don't remember if Stowe had it or not. Like any subs. I don't. If you've got Ultimate Alliance, let's play sometime. I'd really enjoy that. So that's cool. And I thought there was something else, but I can't remember what it was. But that's okay. I saw It Chapter 2.
Mm-hmm. A spooky movie that I will never see.
Funniest movie of the year.
So what do you mean by funny? You keep talking about how funny it is.
So let me say at the front end, this movie is disturbing at parts. Like there are scenes that are psychologically scary. There are scenes that are hard to watch. Uh-huh. There's a lot of jump scares. But this movie, when it isn't, like when the actors aren't having a moment of like actual emotion, like, you know, James McAvoy's in this movie, and when he's like he could basically sleep his way through a role and still be good. Right. Like that's just how James McAvoy is. He does really good with some emotional scenes. Like when the characters are serious, like when they're like dealing with the past and their fears, that's really good. But whenever Pennywise is trying to jump scare them, it's hilarious because the CGI is so bad. Like you may have seen the trailer with Mrs. Kirsch. It's the old woman where Beverly and she like is in the shadows and she's like yelling at her. Have you seen that trailer?
Yeah.
Genuinely terrifying, right? Like the way she like gets louder and more angry and she yells and then you hear the loud stomps and they get progressively faster and closer. That's legitimately good horror. But in the movie, it shows Bev is standing there looking at the kitchen and the kitchen is dark. Right. And you're hearing the footsteps like get closer and closer. And what comes out of the shadows, you know Gollum from Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Imagine his grandmother naked.
I don't want to.
That's what comes out of the shadows, and she's like, Beverly, I'm a monster, and she like tries to get her. And it's like, there's just so many times where it's like they try to be scary, but then with the CGI, they completely take you out of the horror, and you find yourself laughing at it more than anything. Like there's this one character who Pennywise was manipulating to go after the kids. Well, they're adults now, but going after the losers. And he gets to him through a zombie under the bed, and the zombie is standing there, and then he like crawls out, and it's kind of creepy. But then the zombie just looks at him, and his face is like deformed. And he pulls up a box with his knife, and he's like, "Oh, cool, my knife." And so the zombie and this guy leave, and you think like, "Oh, the zombie was just like a scare to get this guy going." But the zombie pulls up in this dude's Mustang, and the zombie is driving. And the zombie turns the camera and is like, "Oh, let's go." Just keeps driving. And so this whole time, whenever you see this car, like this character is like he's going after the main characters, and he's trying to retreat to his car at one point, and you see someone in the car, and you're just thinking, "Oh my God, the zombie driver is still here." But they never show him again. Like, but you know he's there.
That's hilarious.
So like, and there's one scene where that same character, he sneaks up on the hypochondriac character, and he just straight up stabs him in the mouth, like with a knife through his cheek, and the guy just goes, "Why? Why would you do this?" And he like slowly retreats into the shower, and then stabs the dude through the curtain, and then he just says to him, "You need to cut off that mullet. It's been 27 years. You look like an idiot." And then just walks out of the bathroom.
The zombie says this?
No, the hypochondriac character.
To the zombie?
To the guy who the zombie was with.
Oh, I understand.
Like, yes. And then the hypochondriac who's bleeding out of the mouth walks out of the bathroom, and two of the other characters are like, "Oh my God, Eddie, what's going on?" And he just goes, "Bowers is in my room. He's in my room." And he sits down. He's like trying to hold his cheek together. And it's like they play this serious scene where it's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's trying to kill us." They play it for laughs, and it's legitimately funny. Like, I don't know if it was serious or not, but they made it hilarious. And Bill Hader is in this movie.
Yeah.
Do you know Bill Hader?
Yeah.
One of the funniest people on the planet, like easily.
Right. And
he in this movie, he's just having a blast the whole time. He does some impressions that are great. At one point, they're fighting Pennywise, which, by the way, Pennywise, infamously bad. His final form in the original miniseries was a giant spider that looked really fake. Well, in this movie, it's his torso with giant spider legs that look even faker. And so Richie, which is Bill Hader's character, comes out like ready to fight Pennywise. It's in this big scene, and he's like yelling. He yells "Yippee-ki-yay!" Like he's like quoting Die Hard. And then before he can get to the end of that quote, he just like the deadlights, which are Pennywise's true form, hypnotize people. And they make like this brrr, they make this noise. And so before Bill Hader can finish that sentence, he gets hit by the deadlights off screen, and we just see him just go limp, and his mouth just goes, his eyes just glaze over. And it just happens so instantly where it's like, you're supposed to think like, "Oh no, Richie got hit by the deadlights." But it's so comedic in their delivery that everyone in the theater was laughing.
Wow.
And this is during the final fight scene, but against Pennywise. Like, the whole time, we were just laughing. Like, Anna, when she was younger, she saw the original It, and it kind of stuck with her. You know, like it scared her. And we watched the new one last week to get ready for this one. And we were all laughing the entire time. Like, it had zero effect because of how much they played this movie for laughs. And again, there were moments. Yeah. There were moments that were kind of spooky, but good God, this movie. And they had to CGI the kids to make them look younger when it's been 2 years.
Right.
And the fat kid, Ben, they had to CGI fat back onto him because I think he lost weight. Like, you could tell, like, whenever he's on screen, it's like, oh my God, that's CGI fat cheeks. Like,
wow.
I don't know. I'm telling you, like, I'm not a psychopath for saying this movie is hilarious because it's so cheesy, it's so dumb, the CGI is terrible, and like, if you see it with, like, maybe if you watch it by yourself, it probably wouldn't be as funny then. But like the people I saw it with, because I saw it with Brody, Alex, Anna, and our friend Joey, we were all laughing like the whole time. So like, I don't know why they did this, because the first one was legitimately spooky and serious. But this movie was funny. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. It was really entertaining. It was a good movie. But
well, that's good.
It wasn't scary.
That's what you look for, is something that's entertaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for clips of the movie, like the funny
and put
clips,
them in the Discord.
Like, and I'm gonna try to put them in the Discord so you guys can understand. Cause like,
I'd love to see that, because I really want to see I want to see let's go.
The zombie doesn't actually talk, but like, okay, you can hear his thoughts through his mannerisms.
Oh, man. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought of these topics. That really helps us out. If you're an audio listener, you're listening through iTunes, you can leave us a review. It helps people find the podcast, gets more listeners. It's all great. We all get to hang out. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Chortle Games. Keep up with what we're doing, what we're posting, when things are going live, all that good stuff. You can also join our Discord, which you can get to in the link in the description of this video or podcast. You can also get there from our channel banner. So check out that. We post a lot of we let you vote on what we're live streaming. We all just kind of hang out in there. We've got lots of fun channels, like a Poke channel where you can play Pokemon. A music channel where we all share music that we like. It's a lot of fun. We have a great time in the Discord. It's a great time.
It is.
But Steven, the podcast is not the only thing we do here on Chortle Games. The podcast airs, of course, every Monday, 12 o'clock Central Time. Then on Tuesdays and sometimes Thursdays, we do this little stream called Team Up. It's called Tea Time. It's a team up stream where we play a co-op game. This week, we're going to be doing that on Thursday. Probably Risk of Rain 2.
Yeah.
I like Risk of Rain 2. Probably going to play that.
That would make sense, yeah.
Talking about that has me hyped for it, so maybe Destiny if we feel like it, but I'm feeling more Risk of Rain 2. On Wednesday, we will be having a Let's Play. It's going to be Overcooked 2, and I can say that with confidence because I've already edited it, and it's ready to upload. So, it's me and Steven playing the Camp DLC. It's a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Steven, do you remember the backpacks?
I remember the backpacks. I've been sitting here thinking, like, when did we record Overcooked?
It was a while back, but
a while ago.
It's some gold. It's some gold, and I edited it today, and it's going to be a fun time. So that's going to be on Wednesday, and then we'll have a live stream for you Friday and Saturday. Borderlands 3 comes out Friday, as well as Daemon X Machina, which we've been talking about. So Steven is probably going to be playing both of those between Friday and Saturday. So probably Daemon X Machina on Friday, Borderlands on Saturday. So if you're interested in any of those, be sure to tune in, hang out. we'll be streaming those. We'll keep you updated on the Discord and on Twitter and Facebook of when they're going live. But anyway, it'll be a good time.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. And then we'll have another podcast for you the next week. So until then, stay frosty. We'll see you next time.
Stay frosty.